Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News, bringing you a magnetic excursion update Monday, July 7th, 10 p.m. Mountain Time, 2025. A major volcanic eruption on Earth today. Lewotobi Volcano in Flores, Indonesia, had an eruption with an ash column to 63,000 feet. Now, this eruption, the largest in years, well, is not being reported on by mainstream media and is still erupting to over 40,000 feet right now. And we'll go over all the stats on what this eruption means in Flores, Indonesia. Wow, look at that. Absolutely spectacular. We're going to watch the whole video and more as the death toll rises in Texas. Keep calm. It's boom time. More than 100 now dead in Texas floods, with 11 still missing from Camp Mystic. Search efforts are continuing for a fourth day for dozens of people still missing, according to authorities. Camp Mystic, a girls' summer camp in the county, confirmed at least 27 girls and staff were among the dead, with 10 children and one counselor still unaccounted for. More rain and thunderstorms are expected in the region, but the good news is that according to models, nothing significant is going to happen. Questions have been raised about whether adequate flood warnings were provided, and in fact, they were. They were provided earlier in the day prior to the event, and then they were reissued at 9 p.m. that evening. Now here is the horrible update. The summer camp, the Mystic Camp, says that 27 girls and staff were killed, with still 11 missing. You can see here some of the devastation there as the cleanup continues today. Our hearts, thoughts, and prayers go out to all those affected. Can you imagine these agents going through these piles and finding bodies? Because that's what's happening. And just take a look at this tragic scene outside of Camp Mystic. These are all the belongings of all the campers, many of them who are no longer with us. Just a solemn moment. 4 tornadoes confirmed in central North Carolina as remnants of Chantel continue to impact the region. Well, the good news is that Chantel has moved on and is no longer impacting the region. All lanes of Interstate 85 and Interstate 40 were closed in both directions on Monday near Durham and were expected to reopen, and they have, according to North Carolina Department of Transportation. Thousands were left without power after the storm, according to Duke Energy. Thousands of customers across central North Carolina are without power after severe storms that sparked warnings moved through, and that's all care to Chantel. Here you can see 15,000 without power in North Carolina. Earlier today, when we were setting up the show, let's refresh this and see if they've gotten 5,000 customers power back on. So that number has dropped to 10,000. And California now, we've got something going on there, 10,000 plus without power in California. 9,000 plus in New York, 7,000 plus in Ohio, and 6,000 plus in Tennessee. And here we are at Tornado HQ, the live severe weather map with audio updates, one of my favorite pages. We do have some activity in Northern California as far as severe weather. That could be kicking off those power outages up in Northern Cali. Currently, 6 severe weather warnings across the U.S., Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, California, and Oregon. The most recent, Iowa and Nebraska, and that is for Harrison, Potawatomi, Shelby, Burt County, Butler County, Colfax, Dodge, Douglas County, Sarpy County, Saunders in Washington, Norman County in Minnesota, Holt and Wheeler in Nebraska, and Siskiyou and Jackson in California and Oregon. That's what's happening now. And take a look at the hail map for yesterday. Absolutely spectacular. 144,596 households impacted by hail 1 inch or larger. Most of that was in eastern Colorado. 515 households were impacted by gorilla hail. As the gorilla hail threat continues, that's 1 square mile of the big rocks of ice. And now the full forecast. Heavy rainfall to continue through tonight in central Texas. Not really. We'll show you the map. Heat in the east, interior northwest, and the southwest as well. Isolated heavy rainfall will continue through tonight across portions of central Texas. Apparently that's over because there's nothing happening in Texas. Though some relief from the heavy rain is expected on Tuesday, yes, absolutely. It's already occurring now. Heat and humidity will remain in place across the eastern U.S. and interior northwest U.S. over the next few days. It's sweltering out here in the Four Corners region. We are literally crisping in this area. We're baking. So we do have widespread moderate to major heat risks across the U.S. You can see those heat warnings in the normal regions down in Southern California and Southern Arizona, where things heat up in the summer, well above 100 degrees. Dangerous heat will build into the desert Southwest Tuesday through Thursday. We'll check them on that. So let's come over here on thermodynamics, and let's get that shaded out here. Yeah, it is 105. Yeah, it's 105 today. Tomorrow it will be 105 again in those same regions. Southern Arizona, 120. Is that 110? Yeah, 110 in Southern California for Wednesday. For Thursday, we're looking at 109. This is the big one. Holy macaroni. 109 in Southern Arizona and 116 in Southern Cali. Let's move this through to Friday. And it's looking like 108 and 110 in those same regions. And as the weekend hits, 104 and 104. And then things moderate to normal levels. When it's 104 and 104, that nothing to be worried about. It's just when it's 108 where you're all going to die. I do digress. Yeah, weather forecasting has become more fear porn and fear mongering than actual data giving. So let's walk this model through. All right, here we are. Here we are Tuesday into Wednesday into Thursday. Here's Friday. Saturday, we could see some spiciness exploding up in the northern plains there in the Great Lakes. Holy macaroni. Watch out. Wisconsin, and then Michigan, and then Canada. And that is Sunday here and into Monday. Things quiet off except for the southeast and the southern tier. Looks like we could get some moisture in southern New Mexico. Holy macaroni, that monsoon is looking delicious July 14th there. And the monsoon will build as we enter the end of July. Watch the Four Corners region here start to get wetter and wetter. And I'll show you what I mean here on total accumulated precipitation. That's through the model run. See how dry it is in the west? Here it is, July 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. We got some activity on the front range. And then by the 14th, we get to see some moisture out here in the Four Corners. 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. I hope this moisture pattern really lights up here in the west at the end of July, because otherwise the entire U.S. is going to be smoked out all summer, and that would be a bummer. Seismic update. We got a 6.3 here in New Zealand. I'm sure that is rattling nerves. 22 kilometers depth. They felt it on Christ in the main island here. So we've got some spiciness happening just south of New Zealand. Overall, normal activity worldwide. This is quite a large rumbler here in Greece. Another 5 magnitude, rattling the nerves of those on the beautiful tropical island. And that brings us to the big story. Lewotobi Volcano in Flores, Indonesia. An eruption with a huge ash cloud up to 63,000 feet. Yes, it's true. Another major explosion took place at the volcano a few hours ago. Actually, almost a dozen or more. About 11:05 a.m. local time, the Vulcanian to subplinian size eruption generated a huge ash column rising an estimated 63,000 feet or 19,200 meters. Now, folks, that's 12 miles high. Yeah. This is according to Darwin Volcanic Ash Advisory Center. This would be front page news any day yet this might be the first place you've heard about it. The event also produced strong pyroclastic flows that poured down over the northeast slope at about 5 kilometers distance from the summit. And let's take a look at Lewotobi and its eruptive history. It erupts all the time. Look at how many eruptions we'll just go through here going back to 1900. VEI 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. The current eruption is at VEI 2, and it's been ongoing since 2023 and continuing till today. This number will be upgraded to VEI 3 very soon, if not VEI 4. Now, if you were wondering, did this volcano reach the stratosphere? Well, probably not. And that's because Indonesia is near the equator. The stratosphere is at its highest, which at this location is at 63,000 feet. So what probably happened is a lower level eruption, meaning it wasn't as explosive as Hungatunga, meaning going straight up, puncturing the stratosphere. Look at this cloud. It is slowly building and moving, and it takes minutes to get up to that atmosphere-stratospheric boundary. And what happens typically on a smaller moving eruption as the plume expands, once it hits that stratospheric ceiling, it literally hits that layer, and then it spreads out beneath the stratosphere. So it doesn't actually enter the stratosphere. This volcano, probably very little material entered the stratosphere because of the need to penetrate that layer from the atmosphere to the stratosphere is high speed. And this volcanic eruption was slow and building, which is why it's just in the VEI 3 range. Not a lot of material, not a long-lasting eruption, but it's still ongoing. And we've seen upticks. 50,000, now 63,000. And so this may be an event that we have another phase that's much larger. We're crossing our fingers that that's not true, but anything is possible. Now, the rest of the erupting volcanoes today, we've got, and the follow-up eruptions to that big 63,000-foot blast. In fact, the last eruption today is Lewotobi Laki to 43,000 feet. Shivalush, the first on the list for the 7th of July to 13,000 feet. We've got Sakurajima, 9,000-foot puff. Lewotobi to 8,000 foot. Sungay to 20,000 foot. Lewotobi, the big blast, 63,000 foot right there. July 7th at 3:45 UTC. Then Kirishima! That put off a strong pyroclastic flow yesterday, maybe a precursor to this big boom here, to 63,000 feet altitude. We've got Swanosima puffing and passing today, as well as Shivalush to 13,000 foot, Sakurajima to 9,000 foot. We've got Kirishima to 6,000 foot, Ibu to 7,000 foot, Raventador to 14,000 foot, Lewotobi, Laki to 40,000 foot, 48,000. So it is following up. And Semadu, who knew, now you do, 15,000 foot blast there, midday. Sangay to 20,000 foot. Nevada de Ruiz on the list, late day, 19,000 foot. Lewotobi, Laki to 48,000 foot and continuing. And you could see, well, yeah, no ash on that picture. The final picture, we'll see some of that ash from satellite. Kirishima to 5,000 foot. Shivalush to 13,000 foot. Ibu to 7,000 foot. And we've got Raventador to 13,000 foot. Swanosima, 8,000 foot puff there. Semadu, who knew, now you do, 15,000 foot blast. Dukono to 8,000 foot. Look at the stringer from Kirishima. Yeah. Volcanic activity continues there. Certainly. And here we got Ibu to 7,000. Lewotobi, Laki. We've got volcanic ash to flight level 48,000 today, late day. Moving southwest at flight level 30,000, moving northwest at flight level 18,000, and moving west at flight level 9,000 near the summit to 48,000. So here's the volcano, and you can see stringers of ash moving everywhere. This is a major eruption, and, well, a fantastic one at that. Let's take a look once again. Big things afoot. You can see here the flank. There's the pyroclastic flow moving down to the left and the right. There are those pyroclastic flows extending 5 kilometers from the summit crater. And that's going to bring it all the way down into the flat. Take a look from across the sea here, the view on this beach. Absolutely spectacular. And you could get all of this information earlier in the day if you follow us over at X, Oppenheimer Ranch Project, at Diamond the Dave. And that brings us to space weather. For July 8th, it's now July 8th, we crossed that UTC line. Some minor flaring up into the low-level sea range. We've got some active regions turning around the limb. Into view, active region 4135. But nothing significant in the flaring. 3-day geomagnetic forecast is all quiet. Now the bad news. Weed killer ingredient widely used in the U.S. can damage organs and gut bacteria, according to new research. We keep calling this out. It's Daquat. It's banned in the UK and the EU, China, and other countries. It's banned in China, for goodness sakes. Yeah, we live in an idiocracy here in the United States. The U.S. has resisted calls to regulate it. But I think with these new papers coming out, well, the herbicide ingredient used to replace glyphosate and Roundup and other weed killer products can kill gut bacteria and damage organs in multiple ways, according to a new paper in the Frontiers of Science. And so we'll show you that paper right now. A little trouble loading it there. And here we are, the effects of Daquat on gut health, molecular mechanisms, toxic effects, and protective strategies. And this is all coming from Frontiers in Science. Now, what we have known is that the ingredient Daquat is widely employed in the U.S. as a weed killer in vineyards, orchards. It's increasingly sprayed elsewhere as the use of controversial herbicide substances like glyphosate and paraquat drops in the U.S. But this, Daquat, is even more toxic. So while we ban other things that kill us, we then use things that could kill us even more. How does that even make sense? Well, it's big ag. They have so much control over our government that we can't do anything about it. Did you know that before glyphosate came out in the 90s, they passed laws all across U.S., state by state, banning the banning of the use of glyphosate. So they passed laws, the big ag lobby passed laws banning the banning of glyphosate before glyphosate was even introduced to the market. That's how savvy these scumbags are. That's why I started the first march against Monsanto in 2011, worldwide. And I headed the Philadelphia mission, and we kept it up for 6 marches over 3.5 years. Hundreds of thousands of people came out to my marches. They got informed, and it didn't matter. Even though we know what's happening, the revolving door continues. From the CEO of Monsanto to the head of the EPA. It is never ending. The revolving door is the problem, as well as big government and the deep state. Yeah, the president and the executive branch do not control who makes the laws. It's the billionaires with the multinational corporations that pay them to make the laws. And it's absolutely disgusting. If you're not growing your own food or buying fresh, clean produce from permaculture farmers or the farmer's market, you're getting poison. The entire supermarket is filled with Daquat. Yeah, it's applied to almost all potatoes. All potatoes that are not organic have Daquat on it so that they don't sprout. And if you don't scrub it all off or peel the potatoes, you're going to eat it 100% of the time. If you use any canola oil, it's sprayed with Daquat. So it's in the canola oil. All canola oil is tainted with Daquat. And they're using canola oil in all cheap, ultra-processed foods. They're even using it to fry French fries. It's sprayed on non-organic sugar cane. So all cheap sugar has Daquat in it. Yeah. It's sprayed on cotton. So non-organic cotton that you wear, Daquat. And it's also sprayed on all silage, which we feed our cows, our milk cows with. Fermented green crops used for animal feed is sprayed with Daquat. and all the animals and all the milk and all the beef are probably contaminated with it, as well as the hay. It's absolutely disgusting, and there's nothing we can do about it. They don't care about you. They don't care about your health or your outcome. In fact, they hope you eat their potatoes sprayed with Daquat and then have to go to the hospital and spend millions of dollars on pharmaceuticals because it's all connected, which is why I told everyone to move out of major cities a decade ago and learn to grow your own food, get out of Dodge, change the way you live, and be healthy, wealthy, and wise. That doesn't mean you're a millionaire or you're famous on TikTok. It means you're living in the middle of nowhere in the woods with a close-knit group of friends, growing your own food, and being healthy, and not succumbing to the pressures of this nightmare that we're entering. And that's a boom to knowledge. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 100,000 by the end of the year, and we need your help. Share this with like-minded people and be safe. We love you. And that is a boom.